I've spent the last month working on my Roblox game, and I changed it from looking like this to looking like this, and I don't know about you, but in my opinion this is a much more polished and enjoyable version, and I want to show you what I've been doing this whole time, and how I've really been putting my time to use. One thing I want to lean into in this devlog series is talking about the inspirations for my games and where I've gotten some of these ideas from. I've discerned this taboo in the developer community, where developers feel inclined and almost pressured to make every idea in their game uniquely theirs. And I feel like that's not a healthy attitude to have when you're considering the fact that there are millions of games out there. I think it's almost egotistical and completely out of the realm of possibility to believe that your idea could somehow be the one that is completely different from all of the ideas that have been tried before. Now, I'm not advocating for developers to go and blatantly plagiarize from other games, but what I am trying to do is to get people familiar with this mindset that, look, we're all informed by our biases, and I think the logical thing to do is, instead of writing off all these ideas that you've gotten from outside sources, it's to recognize them and try and improve on them with some of your own thoughts and ideas. And that's what I've really tried to aspire to in my game. It's, how can I take the best things from these games that I enjoy and apply them in a way that makes sense on Roblox game engine in the context of my game. If you watched the first devlog, you'll know that I took a lot of inspiration from For Honor, and it's the basis of my combat system. There are a lot of things about For Honor's combat that make sense, and there are a lot of things that don't translate onto Roblox at all. For Honor is mainly made for 1v1s, although there is team fighting in For Honor, it's a lot harder and clunkier to do, and it sort of removes a lot of the fun of the game. And if that were to map onto a Roblox game, that would be a horrible constraint to have, because a lot of the fun in playing Roblox, and a lot of the reason why people do play Roblox, is because of the multiplayer aspect. They want to play with their friends. So one thing I decided to do is to make 1vx's a lot more accessible. A 1vx is when you're fighting multiple people. Previously, the code which let you see the enemy's direction of their guard would only show the enemy that you were locked onto, it wouldn't show any other enemies in the area. And no lie, it's kind of a problem. If you're getting attacked by two dudes, you want to know where they're coming from. If you have one guy coming from the front and another coming from behind, then at the very least you're going to want some protection. So the way my code was set up before was conducive to a ton of bugs and errors when I was trying to add in compatibility for multiple people. And that resulted in it taking like at least 6 or 7 hours just bug fixing and trying to get this thing to work. So the biggest thing I learned from that is that if you have crap code, then instead of trying to hold on to your ego and trying to fix it, then just delete it and start again. Your life is going to be much better. I probably lost at least 2 inches of hair from doing that. It was easily the most stressful thing I've done related to this game. But at least I can say now it works fine. There aren't really any big issues with it. Other than the fact that I can't win a 1v2 to save my life. So I'm just going to rattle off features here. You may have noticed the sword UI on the right hand side of the screen. I made that in Photoshop, and each part is individually exported. Now that's important because it allows me to dismantle and take apart the UI, and as you can see it has a sheath, and so what I was trying to do is to make it the UI as interactive as possible. So whenever you equip your weapon, the sword unsheaths and it reveals your stats, which currently is your health bar and your stamina bar, but the UI you see above your head, the white and the green ones, are also health and stamina, so I'm probably going to replace that with something else. Another small thing that I added, you may have noticed it as well, is that whenever you move your mouse, the camera also moves slightly. So if your mouse is on the right hand side of the screen, your camera will be offset to the right. If it's on the left, it will be offset to the left. If it's up, then it will be offset up. And the reason why I did this is to give the player the sense that they have more control over where their character is going and the camera position, so they can see what's going on in the surroundings. I also found some sword sounds on the library which play whenever you throw a swing and whenever that swing hits an enemy. Another thing that might be less noticeable is I changed the UI, the directional UI, into more curved arrows from the straighter ones from before. I think it just looks a lot better. The other one was glitchy, it had like white outlines on it, so I'm glad that I got to replace this. I just found another curved one and made it in Photoshop. One thing that was in desperate need of a change was the block particle effects whenever you block an attack. Before it used to be stars coming out of the sword, which looked completely stupid. I changed it to these squares, which was trying to emulate like a lo-fi spark type thing. And more interestingly than that, I added heavy attacks, which as you can see are different types of attacks that you can do. They're a lot slower and more damaging than normal attacks, but they obviously have the downside of taking a bit more stamina. Each god has a light attack and a heavy attack, and this just allows you to do 8 different attacks and a bunch of different mix-ups from different gods. You switch into one god, then do a heavy attack, then switch into another god, and then do a light attack, and you can do some crazy combos. I want fights to be as unpredictable as possible, because with the addition of parrying, if players are too predictable, then every fight just becomes a massive parry trade, and that's no fun. In For Honor, parrying is a very situational tool which you only try to do when you're almost 100% sure that your opponent is going to throw out a certain attack. And that's kind of how I want it to be here. You can parry aggressively, but if you miss it, then you're going to get punished pretty heavily. I worked on the logic, the scripting, the particles, and the VFX of parrying for about a whole day, and I'm pretty happy with how it came out. So this is what it looks like. So the way you parry in this game is by using a heavy attack. It's pretty interesting. So in the first 100 milliseconds of the heavy attack, nothing happens, but from milliseconds 100 to 200, there is the parry window, and anything that hits you during that time, you can parry. And I like the system because it forces you to commit to an attack if you miss a parry, and you also can't parry instantly, so light attacks are a lot harder to predict. For the effects here, I just repurposed the hit effects, and I added some lighting effects as well. I like how this turned out. Considering visual stuff is not my realm of expertise, I'm pretty happy with how that came out. It's probably my strongest thing in that department. So the next feature that I added was dodging. Dodging in this game is directional. You can dodge in one of the 4 directions, and you only get iframes in the direction that you're dodging from. So if you dodge upwards, then you'll get iframes for attacks that are coming from the top, and if you dodge to the right, then you'll get iframes from attacks that are coming to the right, and so on and so forth. You can dodge during the middle of an attack to gain momentum, and basically hit the enemy when they would be outside of your range. One of the more simpler features that I added was a randomized title system. The way this works is actually really interesting. It's just a lot of logic. I have 2 lists populated with suffixes and prefixes, and there is some random combinations of those that you can get, and that will be the title for your character. In the future, I plan on giving all of these individual components their own individual buffs, but that's going to take a long time, so that's definitely something that's going to be in the distant future. And something that I just added today was this little question mark icon in the bottom left, and when you click on it, it opens this GUI which shows the instructions for the game and the controls, because there are a lot of controls which are quite confusing. And you can read it and click on next, which will send you to the next slide. And there are basically 8 slides of information, and when you get to the final one, it will close it, and then the question mark icon will pop up again. So those are the main things that I added since the last devlog, mainly just combat changes, and I think they add together to make a pretty fun and enjoyable combat system. There's obviously still a ton of stuff I want to add combat related, like special abilities and different weapons and classes and stuff, but that's all going to be in the future. The next thing I want to add is NPCs and a quest system and inventory system, progression, save files, stuff like that. So that's what you should expect to see in the next devlog. If you want to keep up to date with what I'm doing with the game, feel free to join the Discord server, it will be in the pinned comments. If you're looking to help with the game and you're skilled at one of the following areas, building, VFX, UI, or animations, then join the Discord server, I'd love to talk to you and see what you got. On a tangentially related note, my other friend is making a game, and he also needs help. He wants a builder in specific, so I'm going to play the trailer for his game, and if you have any building experience, then feel free to join his Discord server and see what's up.